All in readiness for BBC Merseyside coming up.
BBC Radio Merseyside.
Overpass graffiti Ed Sheeran on BBC Radio Merseyside. It's David Bowie's birthday today. I found a little clip of David Bowie chatting to Jonathan Ross some years ago. Now, we love the Beatles here on Merseyside, of course we do, so it's always fun to see how people put their own fresh spin on those classic hits. One person who has done that is singer Starr Witness, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by his Caribbean-style remix to Hey Jude. Have a little listen to this.
Hey Jude, don't let me down. You have found her, now go and get her. Remember to let her into your heart, then you can start to make it better. So let it out.
Love that. Well, to tell us why he decided to put his own spin on it, Starr is on the line with us now. A very good morning to you, Starr.
Oh, g'day David, how are you?
I am very well, thank you. Whereabouts are you, Starr? I'm hearing an Australian accent. Are you in Australia or are you in the UK? Whereabouts are you?
No, well spotted. And by the way, call me Andrew by all means. It's Andrew Starr. So look, yes, I'm down here in Sydney. I've come home for Christmas and a little bit of the warmer weather. You'll appreciate, but certainly lovely to be with you on BBC Merseyside.
I've got to add, we have to do this in the UK. I don't know why, and I don't know if you find this in Australia as well, Andrew. I'm going to have to ask you, what time is it over there?
Yes, it's actually 9:33 p.m. on Sunday night. So yeah, we're about 11 hours ahead.
Yeah, 10:33 in the morning here on Sunday. So yeah, you'll be winding down just as we're winding up for the day. Andrew, have you always been a big Beatles fan?
Oh well, yes, I have. I'm glad you raised that because it's usually the first point I raise in interviews. I'm a big Beatles fan. I grew up in the era, I must admit, and look, I'd have to say that this is a very tricky area to go into. Cover versions of Beatles songs, but yes, I am a Beatles fan.
Do you remember that one moment when you first heard or discovered the Beatles? Was it a light bulb moment? Was it getting played on the radio? What was that moment like?
Well, to be honest with you, it's really back in the day, and I'm talking 1963. I am that old. I don't know about a light bulb other than to say a little bit after that, probably 1964. My grandmother took me to see A Hard Day's Night, my brother and myself. So I was about six and a half years old. And I've got to say I was completely mesmerised by what I saw on this big screen. And at the end of this movie, not only was I in love with the Beatles, but their music, but I think I was in a bit of a dream at the time. It was just amazing, and it's been a love affair ever since.
What about some of those favourite songs of the Beatles, Andrew, over the years? Give us some of your favourites.
Oh, that's always a tricky question, David. Look, up the top of the list is songs like Ticket to Ride. I can remember in 1965, maybe not the specific day, but that coming through the speakers, the opening chords of Ticket to Ride. I also like things like I've Got a Feeling from Let It Be, but all the classics like, Get Back and Obla-Dee Obla-Da I particularly love, and of course Hey Jude.
Did you manage to catch Sir Paul McCartney's performance at Glastonbury Festival last year, Andrew? What did you think of that if you saw it?
Look, I actually didn't see that, unfortunately. I did hear a lot about it. I was in the UK at the time, I was working, so I actually missed it, but I heard it was unbelievable.
I think you can probably find it on YouTube. I definitely recommend it. He brought out Bruce Springsteen and Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. I was watching some of it the other day. It was really good. So definitely recommend you go back and watch it. How have the Beatles inspired your own musical career, Andrew? Have they been a big influence on you?
Oh, look, massive, David. I've got to say that since those early years, it even surprises me today that I still love listening to Beatles songs. I've actually run a little Beatles radio show here in Sydney over the years, so I've got to play them a lot. And look, I could be excused perhaps for tiring a little bit, but it's quite the opposite. I still really enjoy their music. But I also love the story, and I've read a lot about the Beatles, and I've been to your fair city, Liverpool, a number of times, and round to some of the local attractions, and in particular John and Paul's childhood homes, and travelling there in 2010, 2012, I was really, really inspired by how they really were sort of a rags to riches type scenario that just, it just went through the stratosphere. So always carry a little bit of their inspiration. And look, in my own original songwriting, one of my goals is to try and write songs that kind of sound familiar to you even the first or second time you might hear them. And songs like "And I Love Her," I mean, the minute you hear that song for the first time, you feel like you've heard it before almost.
It's funny that you mentioned about having your own Beatles radio show, because we've got our own Beatles radio show on BBC Radio Merseyside with a fella called Ian Kennedy. So I think we're going to have to hook you guys up at some point. Sure. And you can both chat Beatles together. You'll have so much fun chatting to Ian. So we'll try and sort that out sometime in the future, Andrew.
Would love that. Would absolutely love that.
Tell us a little bit about how this remix came together then, this Caribbean-style remix of Hey Jude. What was the idea behind it, and how did you put it together?
Well, look, it's kind of an interesting story in as much as it wasn't an intentional ploy, if you will, to do my own version. I was actually recording an original song, and I had the beat for the original song. And I'd played like a guide vocal of my original song, and then when I was playing it back once, I actually muted my vocal and still had the guitar in hand, and for some reason I started listening to this rhythm and just hit the chords from Hey Jude and started singing Hey Jude to this backbeat rhythm. And I got through the song and I thought, I actually quite like this. And so I know it's weird. I recorded just a practice vocal and then played that back, enjoyed that. Then I left it and left it for a month. But I was drawn back to it, and I played it a month later, and I just really, really liked how the lyrics worked against this beat in the way that they did. And so I started to add other instrumentation and realising fairly quickly that it was as you say, Caribbean or calypso type feel. I was adding things like marimbas, steel drums, trumpets, and so on. And I then started to imagine the Beatles being in the Bahamas as they were during the filming of Help, and I had this vision of them sort of wandering through the streets of, I don't know, Kingston, Jamaica or somewhere, with this Jamaican band behind them with all these instruments, and that really got me going with the flavour, and I just had to finish the song.
Fantastic. What a great story that was, Andrew. And tell us about your own musical career as well. I've been on your website. Are you, is there a lot of gigs that you get in Australia? Do you travel the world? Tell us a little bit about your own musical career.
Well, I'd like to say yes to both of those. I do some gigs down here in Sydney, and I've done a number in London. But at the moment, I'm sort of back home, as I mentioned, for Christmas, New Year, and I am recording my next song as we speak. And I have got a couple of gigs coming up, quite a notable one in a couple of weeks' time. And so I'm forever writing and recording my own songs, David. And on the website, on starrwitness.com, you'll see a little spot there that says the singles. and there's about 15 songs there that I have written, recorded and arranged in my studio, Blue Sky Music. And my songs are, look, they're singer-songwriter songs, and I don't know if you're familiar with a Kiwi fellow named Neil Finn, but he's from...
No.
You might be. He's from Crowded House.
Okay.
So Neil's the main songwriter, and he's a real legend down here in Australia as well as New Zealand. And so I like to think my music's also inspired by him. But you can't beat John and Paul for songwriters, and of course George there in the wings as well.
And your website again, it's starrwitness.com, and Star's got 2 R's in it if people want to go and check that out. Any plans to come back to Liverpool this year, Starr?
Oh, look, I would love to be back in Liverpool, and would love to come and do some gigs there, and I'm hoping to do that maybe just before your summer starts. We're just teeing up a few things as we speak, but in the meantime, I hope your audience get to hear Hey Jude, calypso-style, and just to mention the Starr with the double R, just a little nod to Ringo.
Oh, of course it is. Absolute pleasure chatting to you. That's Andrew, Starr Witness, right here on BBC Radio Merseyside. And to play us out, Andrew, I think we'll have a little bit more of your Caribbean version of Hey Jude. Lovely to talk to you. I'm going to say enjoy your Monday, because it's nearly Monday for you now with you being in Australia. So you'll be going to bed soon, I'm sure. Wow. And enjoy the rest of your night, and then enjoy your Monday.
Well, David, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on BBC Radio Merseyside. Look forward to seeing you one day soon.
Let me down.
Take care, Andrew. Take care.
Cheers, mate.
You found her. Now go and get her.
Oh, thanks so much, Andrew. What a brilliant interview, and I absolutely love the song as well.
Oh, thanks, Katie.
I love it. And do, give us a shout when you're in Liverpool, because we'd love to invite you into the studio and maybe, have a live interview with you here. That'd be brilliant.
Well, David mentioned, thank you for that, and David mentioned Ian Kennedy. I'll try and get in contact with him.